What up, y'all? Flash Speaks back. Another video, man. Wow, yesterday was an amazing day of football. First, you had the Green Bay Packers, man, successful against the Dallas Cowboys, and then, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs won their game. And then we had a thriller, pretty good game with the between the Lions and the Rams. Which brings me to what I wanted to talk about, man. I wanted to kind of highlight what the Green Bay Packers did and how impressed I am with that. And it isn't just about this one game, but I'm talking organizationally and what I think the Philadelphia Eagles organization could learn from them. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. The Philadelphia Eagles organization are in no way a failure. This is not what I am trying to present today. Ultimately, that they are a failure. Nothing like that. But what I do want to say and try to show is that there's levels to things, to me. Now, Philadelphia Eagles, all in all, we won a Super Bowl 2017. Not bad. Made a lot of NFC Championship games. Make it to the playoffs. We're perennial contenders for the most part. Every year there's a chance, that we have doing a lot better than many organizations. I'm sure there are plenty of organizations that would love to be performing the way the Philadelphia Eagles have over the years, especially when you look at the Chicago Bears or the Detroit Lions or the Arizona Cardinals and teams like that. Performing quite well, without a doubt. However, if you look at like what Green Bay has done, I can't help but be completely impressed with that. The organization has absolutely positively figured out something that the rest of the NFL has not figured out when it comes to the quarterback position. That organization is A1, the gold standard with that. They figured out the formula. Their last three quarterbacks, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, without a doubt. The last bad quarterback they had was Don Majkowski, and he was a guy that people thought was okay. This was the guy before Brett Favre, but since then, Brett Favre, Hall of Famer, was my favorite quarterback to watch in the 90s, like by far, was Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers, okay, Hall of Famer, still playing. And then now this kid Jordan Love, man, I can't stress how impressed I was with this kid Jordan Love yesterday. You see, the difference between what Green Bay is doing and what other teams are doing is they're not putting a guy out there who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, right? They're just not giving you a guy on that field who's just completely learning through the job, trying to navigate through a new league, who doesn't completely know his playbook, who hasn't seen every defense first in a classroom setting before he's out there. And the results of that is showing. What they're showing is a commitment to the long term and also a commitment to making sure that their players, especially the quarterback, their leader, is prepared when he's out there. And this is far cry different from other teams in their division, like Chicago, for example. Like right now, you got the stupid media and people like that are, they want to give up with Justin Fields. They think Justin Fields, can't really play because he hasn't shown you everything from like his rookie year and so on. They don't care about the fact that the guy might not have had the best offensive line. The guy might not have had good coaching. The guy might definitely hadn't had, the most talented weapons. But no, they expect just because you're out there, you need to just be great, from the beginning. And this is the sentiment that goes on throughout the league. Pretty much with every organization. If your quarterback ain't out there, if he ain't all that from the beginning, there is no type of patience, there is no plan to get the guy where he needs to be. And that's just ridiculous. I think Green Bay is the only team that has that down, that understands that there has to be preparation and that there has to be a commitment to the position. Which brings me to the Eagles. The Eagles would love to build what Green Bay has. Seriously, they would love to build that. But they don't know how. And I preface this with saying right now, today, Philadelphia Eagles probably have a better team than the Green Bay Packers overall right now. But if you look at which team is built for the long haul, built for the long term, one can make the argument that Green Bay is more so set up for that than the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles, by and large, do a decent job, I believe, in certain areas. Do a great job in certain areas. Do a decent job in some other areas, and are just flat out bad in others. Philadelphia Eagles are great at building an offensive line. That's something that they're committed to, and that's what they do. They have what may be the best offensive line coach in the league. And they are willing to spend capital, whether it's high draft picks, whether it's high capital trades, in order to make sure they have strong tackles, they have a good center, and good guards. They do. They care about that. They are committed to that. They are committed to having a strong defensive line. For the most part, most years, they do have a very strong defensive line. They will spend high capital to make sure they have good defensive tackles, which isn't, a bad place to start. If you look at past organizations that were great, many of their first players were that defensive tackle. You look at the greatest franchise of all time, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The pick that turned their whole franchise around was one Mean Joe Green. It was not Terry Bradshaw. It was Mean Joe Green. That was the first pick in 1969, I believe it was, that set their organization on the course to be the team of the 70s. So the Philadelphia Eagles do that. They understand that part. When it comes to wide receivers, Philadelphia Eagles do not know how to pick a wide receiver to save their life. What I mean by they wish they could build that is look at what Green Bay has in terms of receivers. This kid Dobbs, man, Romeo Dobbs. You're talking about a fourth round pick from Nevada, out of Nevada. Pick 132, 6'2", 204. Looked great. I'm not going to come here and tell you that he's better than A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. No, he's not. But what he is, he's a fourth round selection that goes out there and dominates the Dallas Cowboys. Something that we have not been able to do. We have not been able to do that. Like, not saying we can't beat the Dallas Cowboys, but we're not able, for some reason, to dominate, to do to them what Green Bay just did to them. It's the truth. Philadelphia Eagles, I would say, are decent at selecting quarterbacks, but not great at it. And this is no knock on Jalen Hurts or whatever. Jalen Hurts is my favorite Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, that we've had. He is. And like I said, it's not a thing about size, it's not a thing about dimensions, it's not necessarily a thing about talent. It's more like I just like his character. I like the person that he is, and I believe that translates into good play. I like his commitment. I like his mentality. I like those things because I believe those things are actually, I'll put it this way. I believe, I was always taught, growing up, talent is great. Talent is the thing that people look for. But hard work will beat talent every day of the week. Hard work will beat talent every day of the week. The perfect players are the guys that you can find that have the most amount of talent coupled with hard work. This is why Michael Jordan is who he is. He was the perfect mixture of talent and hard work. And that's the thing. And it's not to say Jalen Hurts doesn't have talent. No, yeah, he has more than enough talent. Okay? But it's really the hard work that sticks out. His talent isn't like something that sticks out amongst the rest of the league. You know, the size and all of that stuff. Look at that team. In order for the Philadelphia Eagles to build the type of offense we want, just look at what we had to do. You had to spend first-round capital on wide receivers, on Devontae Smith. Not saying it was a bad pick, but just look at what the Eagles had to do. They had to spend first-round picks in order to get A.J. Brown. This showed you that they're not able to just find a guy in the fourth round and ends up being a gem, even though they desire to do that. This is what they've tried to do over the years. Look at J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Look at who's some of the other guys, the Mac Joneses that the Philadelphia Eagles had. Guys that we try to find from these obscure colleges, these other divisions and stuff like that. And for some reason, when they come to the Eagles, they're not ready to play. They're not good. It could be Green Bay may have great wide receiver coaches that teach the fundamentals well. Who knows? I have one theory, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles from the top have commitment issues when it comes to philosophy and when it comes to like what they want to be offensively and defensively. If you look back at the history of the Jeffrey Lurie owned Eagles, the best versions, you would argue, consistently, were the Andy Reid years. Andy Reid has a pretty consistent philosophy, which is West Coast offense with his wrinkles, West Coast offense principle-wise, with his wrinkles that he adds, and aggressive defensive coordinators. When he was here, he had Jim Johnson running his defense. Now in Kansas City, he has Jim Johnson's top disciple, Steve Spagnuolo, running his defense while he does what he does. Same formula, consistency. He lucked out by getting the quarterback of his dreams, so that has garnered him a couple Super Bowls, so on. But the one thing I see, even though Andy Reid isn't perfect to me, one thing I will say, he knows what he wants, and he's consistent with it. Philadelphia Eagles, not so much outside of Andy Reid. If we look at their greatest achievement, 2017, Philadelphia Eagles did what? They did have, like I said, the defensive line there that they want. They had Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle. That's that position they value so much. They had that. They had a good offensive line. Check, good. When it came to the quarterback, you see, they were kind of going through a period where they were confused because they were coming off of hiring Chip Kelly to follow up Andy Reid, which was the greatest mistake the team ever made. It's the greatest mistake the team ever made. Because instead of a commitment to the West Coast offense and the West Coast principles, and say maybe grabbing a guy who takes the West Coast offense and adds a little different wrinkle to it from what Andy Reid did. instead of doing that. Similar to like how these Matt LaFleur's are. Or I'm not saying he was ready at the time, but I'm just saying a guy like that. Or, the Kyle Shanahan's or the guy that's down there in Miami or one of those types of guys. What the Philadelphia Eagles go do is they try to go into the college ranks and find the newest, freshest guy who's tearing it up on the college scene, because what their desire to do is somehow be on the cutting edge, try to determine where the NFL is going, like predict it, and then look to try to get our head out on it and like be on the cutting edge of the next big thing. They want to be the leader in that. And this isn't my own prediction based on watching them. No, I've read articles where they've said these types of things. I remember when Chip Kelly was being courted to the Philadelphia Eagles. This was the talk. They want to be, the NFL is going here, and we want to be on the cutting edge and so on. But what they didn't realize is that college is completely different from the NFL. And then in the NFL, it is oftentimes, system is important, but it's more so about your players. And Chip Kelly's whole tenure here showed that. When he had Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy and Jeremy Maclin and those guys, he performed well. When he didn't have those guys, he even tried to replace them with Aguilars and some of these other guys. It wasn't the same, right? So you had that going on. And then Philadelphia Eagles, for some reason, still liked something about what Chip Kelly was doing, because that was the formula for winning in 2017. Which brings us back to that. So when it came to scheme-wise, look at what they did in 2017. You brought in Carson Wentz, which I didn't have a problem with, but at the time, you had Sam Bradford, okay? You had Sam Bradford as your quarterback, who was previously 9-7 the year before, and hopefully building on something. And he wanted to, I think we recently assigned him to a little contract, or he wanted a contract. There was something like that going on. We decided to go in a different direction with Carson Wentz. Fine. We hire Doug Peterson primarily because Andy Reid recommended him. So we bring Doug Peterson in, who is a guy, of course, that is a West Coast offense guy, but not seen as like the biggest genius, best play caller type of guy, nothing like that. Just Doug Peterson, which I didn't have a problem with at the time. He brings in Frank Reich with him, though, who aids him with the offense. This was actually strange. Why? Because Doug Peterson comes from the West Coast offensive tree. Frank Reich comes from the number system tree. The number system tree, you found being utilized like back in the day. Teams like the Buffalo Bills, Houston Oilers, and different teams like that. It's a different language. Okay, so when we look at the 2017, it was kind of a combination of these two things. Now, I know it seemed like things worked seamlessly and all of that. 2017 was similar to our year last year. For some reason, it's the second year with these quarterbacks and everything that seems to be the chance to pounce for some reason. And that's what happened in 2017. Team caught lightning in the bottle and all of that. Now, it was challenged with Carson Wentz going down in Week 13 against the Rams. And then we had Nick Foles come in. Now, what was crazy with Nick Foles, and this was just like a miracle almost, was that he struggled initially running the stuff that the team was running for Carson Wentz down the stretch in that season against New England. Against the Raiders looked horrible. Against the Giants, he was, Nobody expected him to go on a run like he did in the playoffs. What happened was the Philadelphia Eagles just had a great running game, led by two bruising running backs, which is a style they refuse to repeat, just to be committed to. And then what proceeded to happen was Nick Foles really, for some reason, was able to run the Chip Kelly offense, the RPO-based offense that he was successful with under Chip Kelly. Okay? And then a perfect storm happened. The NFL, for the most part, wasn't ready for it. Bill Belichick was completely not ready for it. The Vikings weren't, and Bill Belichick wasn't, because Bill Belichick said that, he was saying to Doug Peterson, he said, I was looking through your film and looking for a game where you were behind. I couldn't find one. But we know looking through film, he was also looking at their plays. And they weren't running all RPO offense all year with Carson Wentz. All of a sudden, it was something that they did in the playoffs. NFL wasn't ready. And honestly, that's the reason why they were able to get to the Super Bowl and win it. Because NFL is about preparation, being ready, knowing when to stop, how to stop guys, and so on. What the Eagles fail to realize, man, is you need an offensive philosophy that has staying power. And you need good coaches who know how to adjust and add new wrinkles to a philosophy that has staying power. When it comes to Nick Sirianni now, I really don't know what is going on with the offense. Because Nick Sirianni traditionally does not come from, this brings us to the Eagles now. Nick Sirianni does not run an RPO-based offense. He doesn't come from that. He was actually under Frank Reich's tree over there in Indianapolis. So you're assuming maybe that's number system, right? But we saw a lot of RPO work, which really wasn't even Shane Steichen's thing. But it was the Chip Kelly thing again. So what I think happened is the Philadelphia Eagles, with their philosophy of collaborating, I believe that they believe that the RPO-based offense, because the Eagles won in 2017, is the philosophy of choice for the front office. And that the reason Jalen Hurts is a Philadelphia Eagle is because when they look through the college ranks, Jalen Hurts was the best RPO system-running quarterback they could find. And that's what they wanted. They wanted a guy that can run that offense. I believe most of the problems that happened with Carson Wentz stemmed as a result of Carson Wentz not wanting to run an RPO-based offense, and preferring to run like a number system type of offense, versus the front office who wanted whatever the hell Nick Foles did because they won with it. That's just what I believe. And once the coach soured on Wentz, who didn't want to do what the front office wanted, he was kind of out the door anyway. And him just winning 4 games in 2020, what it was, that was pretty much the icing on the cake. I believe that. And right now what we see happening is a front office that probably still wants the RPO-based offense, coupled with Nick Sirianni, who runs God knows what. I really don't know what the hell his offense is. And Brian Johnson, who's really like the college guy, and probably the guy that knows how to run the RPO offense. But even then, these guys, man, they don't have an offense that's a great NFL offense. Ultimately, all of it comes together to be crap because any particular system will eventually get figured out. You can bring something new to the NFL. And if you got enough talent and the right players, you could probably succeed with it that first year, maybe that second year. Excuse me. By that third or fourth year, these defensive coordinators are too smart. They're going to figure out what you're doing. And then you got to be able to counter what they counter with. That's the way it goes. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles have failed in this. And this is the reason why they struggled this year. They were able to still win and come up with an 11-game record because of the amount of talent that they loaded with. There was nothing schematic about what they were doing that led to wins. And what I don't like is the way it's making the quarterback look, it's making the offense look, and everything else. And then when you couple that with a horrible defense, it all spells disaster. It tells us wholesale changes need to be made. Wholesale changes need to be made. And I think there needs to be a greater commitment to first selecting a philosophy that works best for your quarterback, your personnel, but one that has staying power. One that has staying power. Like, you look at, it's a shame. Really, a guy that should have taken over for our offense should have been like a Bieniemy, or one of them disciples, man, for the West Coast offense disciples, because that's where you had the most long-term success. It's just me. I don't know what's going to happen today against Tampa Bay. Without a doubt, Green Bay winning that game, if we can get it together, did us a big favor. Because now, Green Bay has to go to the 49ers and play them. And I think Green Bay has a good chance in that game. I really do. I think they match up well and they have a good chance in that game. They will be playing against a defense that's a lot more disciplined than Dallas. Dallas is an undisciplined team. But we're in a situation where, based on the way we played down the stretch, it looks like we can't beat anybody. But in reality, if the Eagles could beat the Eagles, should be able to beat the Bucks. And then after that, we got Detroit, which I think will be a tough spot and a tough game for us, man. But it's one of those situations, man. If A.J. Brown comes back and Jalen Hurts can put the cape on, you never know what can happen. But he's going to definitely have to put the cape on. He might have to run for $150 and pass for 200. It's a shame, but that's the way this season is panned out. There's not going to be some miracle change with the defense. He's just got to play crazy, lights out, be the top guy, That's really the only formula. That and running the ball, effective running game. But the offense just has to do it. If anything's going to happen this season, But we'll see, man. But that's pretty much all I got this morning, man. Wanted to talk about. Go Birds, man. We see what happens later, man. Peace.